And this is me doing a handstand on the Great Wall of China," Emma exclaimed, flipping through her Instagram perfect photos on our parents' massive living room TV. "Can you believe how amazing this experience was?" I sat quietly in the corner, my fingers tightening around my coffee mug as my sister continued her slideshow. 3 hours of watching her gallivant across the globe while our parents cooed and gasped at every image. "Oh, look at that sunset in Bali," Mom gushed. "You've really found yourself, sweetheart." Found herself. Right. More like found every tourist trap and luxury resort from Tokyo to Paris, all on our parents' dime. Meanwhile, I'd spent the past year juggling 3 jobs: barista by morning, tutor by afternoon, and night shift at the hospital lab just to afford my biochemistry degree. My name is Olivia Chen, and at 23, I was watching my 21-year-old sister bask in the glow of her $50,000 self-discovery tour while I had exactly $46.78 in my checking account. "And this," Emma said, clicking to the next photo, "is where I decided I wanted to be a lifestyle influencer. I already have 10,000 followers and brands are starting to notice me." Dad beamed with pride. "That's wonderful, princess. Much better than being stuck in some stuffy lab all day." The pointed look he gave me didn't go unnoticed. Neither did the way Mom quickly changed the subject when I opened my mouth to respond. They'd made their feelings clear when they rejected my request for help with tuition last year. "We're not made of money, Olivia," they'd said. 2 weeks later, they bought Emma a first-class ticket to Japan. Speaking of my influencer career, Emma continued, flicking her perfectly styled hair over her shoulder, "I was thinking of converting the guest house into a content creation studio. You know, for my brand? The guest house. The same one I've been hoping to move into to save on rent while finishing my degree." I couldn't help it. I laughed. The sound was sharp enough to make everyone turn and look at me. "Something funny?" Emma asked, her perfectly sculpted eyebrows rising. No, I said, standing up. "Just thinking about how interesting timing can be. Excuse me, I need to make a call." I stepped out onto the back porch, pulling my phone from my pocket. The screen lit up with a notification I'd been waiting for all evening. My hands shook slightly as I opened the email and read the contents. "Dear Ms. Chen, we are pleased to inform you that your research paper, Novel Approaches to Enzymatic Catalysis in Pharmaceutical Development, has been accepted for publication in the Journal of Biochemical Innovation. Furthermore, based on your groundbreaking findings, Horizon Pharmaceuticals would like to offer you." "Olivia," Mom's voice cut through my moment. "Don't be rude. Come back inside. Emma's not finished with her presentation." I took a deep breath, slipped my phone back into my pocket, and returned to the living room. Emma had moved on to her photos from the south of France. "Look at this vineyard," she exclaimed. "The owner said I had such a sophisticated palate. He even offered me a job as their social media manager." "That's because you have natural talent, sweetie," Mom said. "Not everyone needs to spend years studying to be successful." I sank back into my chair, letting their words wash over me. They had no idea what I'd been building while Emma was posting sunset photos and cafe reviews. No clue about the nights I'd spent in the lab, the breakthrough I'd made, or the paper I'd written between shifts at the coffee shop. "Oh," Emma clapped her hands together. "I almost forgot the best part," she said excitedly. "Remember that cute little lab in the guest house, Olivia? The one you used to play scientist in? I'm thinking of turning it into my photography studio. Dad already said I could. That lab, my lab. The place where I'd made my discovery, working with equipment I'd scrounged and saved for. The place that was about to become a backdrop for Emma's selfies." "Actually," I said, my voice calm despite the anger bubbling beneath the surface, "I have some photos to share too." Emma rolled her eyes. "Let me guess, more pictures of test tubes and petri dishes. Boring." I pulled out my laptop, connecting it to the TV. "Something like that." The first slide appeared, a complex molecular diagram that made Emma's eyes glaze over. But it wasn't for her. It was for Dad, the former chemistry teacher who'd given up his passion for a corporate job. I saw his posture change, his eyes narrow as he recognized what he was looking at. "This," I said, clicking to the next slide, "is what I've been working on while handling 3 jobs to pay for the education you wouldn't help with." The next slide showed the results of my experiments, clear, irrefutable evidence of a new enzymatic process that could revolutionize drug manufacturing. Dad leaned forward, his mouth slightly open. And this, I continued, moving to the final slide, is the offer I just received from Horizon Pharmaceuticals. They want to patent my discovery and bring me on as their lead researcher. Starting salary, $150,000, plus royalties on any drugs developed using my process. The silence in the room was deafening. Emma's perfect smile faltered. Mom's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Dad just stared at the screen, his chemist's mind processing exactly what he was seeing. But that's not fair. Emma finally sputtered. You can't just. I mean, I'm the one who's supposed to. Supposed to what? I asked quietly. Be the successful one. The one they're proud of. The one who gets everything handed to her while I work myself to exhaustion. Olivia, Mom started, but I held up my hand. No, let me finish. While you were spending $50,000 on Emma's Finding Herself tour, I was discovering something too. I discovered that I don't need your approval. I don't need your money, and I definitely don't need to sit here and pretend that what you've done is okay. I stood up, gathering my things. Oh, and Emma, about the guest house, you might want to hold off on those renovation plans. The contract I'm signing includes a clause about maintaining a private research space. Turns out that little lab you want to turn into a selfie studio. It's where I made the discovery that's going to fund my own world tour someday. Now wait just a minute, Dad started, his voice carrying that authoritative tone he used when he thought he could still control the situation. You can't just make decisions about the guest house. It's our property. I pulled out my phone, showing him the email from 6 months ago. The one where he'd officially signed over the guest house to me when he thought I was just playing scientist. Actually, it's my property. You made that very clear when you said, and I quote, at least let her have her little hobby space since we can't help with tuition. Remember that, Dad? The color drained from his face as the memory hit him. Emma looked between us, her perfectly curated world starting to crack. But what about my content creation studio? She whined. My followers are expecting. Your followers can find another backdrop, I said, picking up my bag. I've got a patent to file and a career to build. Oh, and Mom, Dad, you might want to start saving that money you spend on Emma. Something tells me her influencer career isn't going to pay for her retirement. I walked out of the house that evening feeling lighter than I had in years. Behind me, I could hear Emma's protests, Mom's attempts to smooth things over, and Dad's heavy silence. But for the first time, their drama didn't weigh me down. My phone buzzed again. Another email from Horizon Pharmaceuticals, this one with the formal contract attached. I smiled, thinking about the moment in the guest house lab when I first realized what I'd discovered. I'd been alone that night, running one last test after finishing my shift at the coffee shop. No one had been there to see my hands shake as I recorded the results, no one to share the moment when I realized what it meant. But that was okay. Some victories are sweeter when you earn them completely on your own. The next morning, I woke up to 15 missed calls from my family and one text from Emma. This isn't fair. You're ruining everything. I texted back a single photo, me in my lab coat, holding up the official acceptance letter from the journal. Below it, I wrote, actually, I'm just getting started. Then I turned off my phone, got dressed, and headed to the guest house. I had experiments to run, papers to sign, and a future to build. Let Emma have her Instagram followers. I had something better. Proof that hard work, determination, and resilience can outweigh any advantage unfairly given. As I unlocked the guest house door, I caught a glimpse of Emma watching from the main house window, her perfect facade finally cracking. For the first time in our lives, she was seeing me, really seeing me, not as her shadow, not as a responsible older sister who always stepped aside, but as someone who had quietly built something remarkable while she was busy taking selfies in Paris. I had a feeling family dinners were about to get a lot more interesting. Walking into my lab, I ran my hand along the familiar counter where I'd made my breakthrough. The equipment might be secondhand, the space might be small, but it was mine. Every beaker, every notebook, every late-night discovery. I'd earned them all. The morning sun streamed through the windows, catching the edges of my glassware and sending prisms dancing across the walls. Somewhere in the main house, I knew Emma was probably plotting her next move. Mom was wringing her hands over family harmony, and Dad was finally confronting the reality of his choices. But here in my lab, none of that mattered. I had work to do, and for the first time in my life, I didn't need anyone's approval to do it. I pulled on my lab coat, opened my notebook, and smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising so far above the people who doubted you that they can't help but look up and wonder how they missed your light. Time to get to work. The next week was a study in escalating chaos. Emma launched what she probably thought was a sophisticated social media campaign against me, posting throwback photos of us as kids with captions like, "Some people forget where they came from, and families should support each other's dreams." I almost admired her commitment to the victim narrative. Almost. My phone kept buzzing with messages from relatives who had seen her posts. Most sided with her initially. After all, they'd watched her carefully curated Instagram stories about finding herself, while I had been quietly working in my lab. To them, I was the jealous older sister trying to steal Emma's spotlight. That changed when the local paper ran a story about my research. "Local scientist makes breakthrough in drug development," the headline read. The article detailed my discovery, mentioning how I had worked multiple jobs to fund my education and research. The reporter had done her homework, including a quote from my old chemistry professor about my extraordinary dedication and brilliant mind. Emma's next Instagram post was a bit less confident. "Some people will do anything for attention." I was in my lab, reviewing the final contract details with Horizon's legal team, when Mom showed up. She hadn't called ahead, probably knew I wouldn't answer. "Olivia," she said, hovering in the doorway. "We need to talk about this situation." I didn't look up from my papers. "Which situation? The one where you funded Emma's world tour while I worked 3 jobs, or the one where she's trying to paint me as the villain because I succeeded without your help?" "Don't be dramatic," she sighed. "You know we would have helped if we could." "You could," I interrupted, finally meeting her eyes. "You chose not to. There's a difference." She shifted uncomfortably, clutching her designer purse tight against her chest. "Your father and I have been talking. We think maybe we could work something out. Help you with your research now that we see how serious you are about it." I couldn't help but laugh. "Now that it's successful, you mean? Now that there's money and recognition involved?" "That's not fair." "No," I agreed, standing up. "What's not fair is watching my sister post about 5-star hotels while I made coffee at 5 a.m. to pay for lab supplies. What's not fair is hearing you call her brave for following her dreams while dismissing my work as a hobby." Mom's face crumpled slightly. "We never meant to." "To what?" "To show me exactly where I stood in this family. To make it crystal clear that Emma's Instagram followers meant more to you than my education." I gestured to my lab equipment. "Every piece of this, every experiment, every late night. I did it without you. I don't need your help now." Before she could respond, my phone buzzed. The Horizon Pharmaceuticals logo flashed on the screen. "I have a meeting to take," I said. "You can see yourself out." She lingered for a moment, perhaps waiting for me to soften, to give her an opening to repair what she had broken. When I didn't, she turned and left, her expensive heels clicking against the floor. The meeting with Horizon was brief but significant. They wanted to fast-track the patent process and get me started as soon as possible. As I hung up, I saw a text from Dad. "Your mother's upset. We should discuss this as a family." I typed back, "Nothing to discuss. Contract signing tomorrow at 10 a.m. Emma's latest social media salvo came that evening. A heavily filtered video of her crying about toxic family dynamics and how success shouldn't come at the cost of compassion. The comments were filled with her followers offering support, telling her she was brave for speaking out. I wondered how they'd react if they knew she had tried to turn my research lab into a selfie studio. That night, as I was locking up the lab, I found Dad waiting outside. He looked older somehow, more worn than I remembered. "You're making a mistake," he said without preamble. "This company, they're just using your research. You need family to guide you through this. Like you guided Emma through spending $50,000 on a glorified vacation." He flinched. That was different. She needed to find her path. And I did it. Or did you just assume my path wasn't worth investing in? "We thought," he started, then stopped, running a hand through his graying hair. "You were always so independent, so capable. We didn't think you needed." "No," I cut him off. "You didn't think about me at all. That's the problem." I moved to walk past him, but he caught my arm. "Olivia, please, let us help now. We can be a family again." I gently removed his hand. We are a family, Dad. That's what makes this worse. You had every opportunity to support me, to believe in me, to treat me with the same consideration you gave Emma. You chose not to. Now you have to live with that choice. As I drove home, my phone lit up with notifications. Emma had posted again, this time sharing childhood photos of us with the caption, "Missing when my sister cared more about family than fame. Success changes people." I smiled despite myself. She still didn't get it. This wasn't about fame or success, or even money. This was about finally being seen. About proving that all those nights I spent working while she traveled the world hadn't been wasted. The contract signing ceremony the next morning was small but significant. As I signed my name on the final page, making my partnership with Horizon official, I thought about Emma's Instagram posts, Mom's belated offer of help, Dad's attempt to reassert control. They'd spent years underestimating me, dismissing my work, treating my dedication as something less valuable than Emma's pursuit of social media fame. Now they had to watch from the sidelines as I built something real, something lasting. The head of research at Horizon shook my hand, smiling warmly. "Welcome to the team, Dr. Chen. We're expecting great things from you." I smiled back, feeling the weight of the moment. "Thank you, I'm ready to get started." As I walked out of the building, now officially a lead researcher with a groundbreaking patent to my name, I saw I had one new message. It was from Emma. "This isn't over. Family means more than any contract." I typed back, "You're right, family means more. That's why it hurt so much when ours chose you." Then I turned off my phone, got in my car, and headed to my lab. I had work to do, and for once, I didn't need anyone's approval to do it. The future was mine to build, one experiment at a time. 3 months into my position at Horizon Pharmaceuticals, I barely recognized my life. My research was progressing faster than anyone expected. My team was brilliant and dedicated. And for the first time, I was doing exactly what I wanted without worrying about anyone else's approval. Then Emma's influencer career imploded. I heard about it from my aunt first. Apparently, some of Emma's followers had started questioning the authenticity of her self-made success story. Someone had dug up the truth about our parents funding her world tour, and suddenly, her carefully crafted image of a struggling artist finding her way began to crumble. Her response was predictably dramatic. The truth about toxic family and the price of success. She titled her latest video, tears streaming perfectly down her cheeks. "My sister's jealousy has turned my own followers against me." I watched the video during my lunch break, feeling a strange mix of pity and vindication. Emma had spent so long living in a bubble of privilege that she couldn't even recognize her own role in this situation. "Olivia," my lab assistant knocked on my door. "Your father's here." I looked up, surprised. Dad hadn't tried to contact me since the contract signing. "Send him in." He looked uncomfortable in the sleek, modern lobby of Horizon's research facility. His teacher's blazer and worn briefcase seemed out of place among the glass and chrome. "Your sister's devastated," he said without preamble. "She's lost 3 sponsorship deals this week." I kept my voice neutral. "And this concerns me how?" "She thinks you're behind it, that you're trying to ruin her career." "I haven't done anything to Emma's career," I said, turning back to my work. "Her followers simply learned the truth. Isn't that what influencers are supposed to be about? Authenticity." Dad shifted uncomfortably. "She's talking about moving back home. Your mother's worried about her mental health." "Like you were worried about my mental health when I was working 3 jobs to pay for school." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken regrets. "We made mistakes," he finally said. "But you're the stronger one. You've always been the stronger one." I looked up at him then, really looked at him. "That's not a compliment, Dad. Being strong shouldn't mean being ignored. Being independent shouldn't mean being abandoned." "I know," he said quietly. "I know that now." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with an urgent message from the lab. "We just had a breakthrough with one of our major experiments." "I have to go," I said, standing. "The team needs me." Dad nodded, looking suddenly old and tired. "You've built something remarkable here, Olivia. I just wish." "Wishes don't change the past," I said, but my voice was gentler now. "Actions do." That afternoon, the breakthrough we made was significant enough to make headlines. Horizon Pharmaceuticals announces major development in drug production. Read the news alerts. My name was mentioned prominently, along with details of my research. Emma's response came in the form of a lengthy Instagram post. While some chase fame through science, others stay true to their authentic selves. Proud to announce I'm starting a wellness coaching business. I had to admire her persistence, if nothing else. That evening, as I was reviewing the day's lab results, Mom showed up at my office. She looked different, less polished, more real somehow. Your father told me about your conversation, she said, hovering in the doorway. And I saw the news about your breakthrough. I waited, curious to see where this was going. I've been thinking about what you said, about choices and consequences. She took a deep breath. We're selling the beach house. That got my attention. The beach house had been their retirement dream. The reason they claimed they couldn't help with my tuition. Emma needs a fresh start, Mom continued. But this time we're not just giving her money. She needs to learn what you learned, that success comes from work, not handouts. I set down my papers. Why are you telling me this? Because you were right about everything. And because, she hesitated, then pushed forward. Because I'm proud of you, not just for your success, but for how you achieved it, for being strong enough to stand alone when we failed to stand with you. The words I'd wanted to hear for so long should have felt triumphant. Instead, they just felt real, complicated, and messy and true. It's not about being strong enough to stand alone, I said finally. It's about being strong enough to stand up for yourself, even when the people who should support you don't. Mom nodded, tears in her eyes. I know that now. As she turned to leave, she paused. Emma's wellness coaching business. She wants to focus on helping people find their authentic path. I couldn't help but smile at the irony. Maybe she finally will find herself, just not in the way she expected. That night, as I locked up my lab, I thought about paths and choices, about strength and authenticity. Emma's world tour hadn't helped her find herself, but maybe losing everything she took for granted would. And maybe my parents' late recognition of their mistakes wouldn't erase the past, but it could help shape the future. My phone buzzed with another message, this time from Horizon's board of directors. They wanted me to present our latest findings at an international conference next month. In Paris, ironically enough. I smiled, thinking of Emma's carefully staged photos in front of the Eiffel Tower. My trip would be different. No luxury hotels, no carefully filtered selfies. Just real work, real achievement, and a real sense of earning my place in the world. Sometimes the longest journeys aren't measured in miles traveled, but in truths learned along the way. 1 year later, I stood at a podium in Paris, presenting my latest research findings to a packed conference hall. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was staying at one of the same hotels Emma had posted from during her self-discovery tour. But while her photos had been about showing off a lifestyle, I was here building a legacy. As I finished my presentation to enthusiastic applause, my phone buzzed with a notification. Emma had posted for the first time in months. Proud to announce I've completed my first semester of community college. Sometimes the hardest journey is learning who you really are. #AuthenticLiving. I smiled, remembering our last conversation 3 months ago. She'd shown up at my lab, not to apologize exactly, but to talk. Really talk, maybe for the first time in our lives. I never saw it before, she'd said, sitting awkwardly on a lab stool. How hard you worked. How much you sacrificed. I was so busy trying to be special that I never noticed you actually were. We all have different paths, I'd replied, carefully measuring compounds for my latest experiment. You just had to find yours the hard way. She'd watched me work for a while, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the stainless steel counter. I enrolled in some classes, she'd finally said. Basic chemistry, biology. I thought maybe I could understand what you do, what you've built. It wasn't an apology, but it was something like growth. After my presentation, I checked my messages. Mom had sent a photo of Emma studying at our kitchen table, textbooks spread out around her. She's really trying, the message read. Thank you for showing her it's possible. Dad's message was simpler. You would have made your mother proud. I'm sorry I didn't say that sooner. I stepped out onto my hotel balcony, looking over the Paris skyline. Somewhere in my suitcase was Emma's old travel journal, the one she dropped off at my lab last week. I thought you might want to see the difference, she'd said, between then and now. The journal was filled with her old posts, carefully staged photos, exaggerated captions about finding herself, detailed descriptions of luxury hotels and expensive meals. But in the margins, she'd written new notes. honest ones. Was afraid of being ordinary, one note read. Didn't realize extraordinary takes work. Another next to a photo of her pretending to study at a cafe. Olivia was actually studying while I took this. She was building her future while I was pretending to have one. My phone buzzed again, a video call from the family. I answered to find them crowded around our kitchen table, Emma's textbook still visible in the background. "How was the presentation?" Dad asked. "Good," I said. "The new research is getting a lot of attention." "We watched the live stream," Emma said quietly. "I actually understood some of it this time. The part about enzyme catalysis. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but recognition. Recognition of effort, of change, of growth. My next experiment," I said, "involves some basic concepts you're probably covering in your chemistry class. If you want, I could walk you through it when I get back." Emma's face lit up with genuine interest, not the carefully curated enthusiasm of her influencer days, but real curiosity. "I'd like that." Mom wiped tears from her eyes while Dad pretended to be very interested in his coffee cup. Some things hadn't changed. We were still awkward with real emotion, still learning how to be honest with each other. But other things had changed profoundly. The beach house had sold, providing Emma with tuition for community college instead of funds for another world tour. My parents had downsized, moving to a smaller house that didn't require them to maintain appearances they couldn't afford. And my research had expanded, leading to breakthroughs that would help people long after the memory of Emma's Instagram fame had faded. "I should go," I said. "Early meeting tomorrow." "Of course," Mom nodded. "But Olivia, we're proud of you, not just for what you've achieved, but for who you are." "I know," I said softly. "I am too." After ending the call, I looked out at the Paris lights again. Emma had come here searching for herself in luxury hotels and carefully filtered photos. I found myself in late nights at the lab, early mornings making coffee, and endless hours of focused work. We both ended up where we needed to be, just by very different paths. My phone buzzed one last time, a private message from Emma. "Aced my chemistry quiz today. Turns out I'm not as bad at science as I thought. Maybe it runs in the family." I typed back, "Maybe it's not about what runs in the family. Maybe it's about what you're willing to work for." Her response came quickly. "I'm learning that. Finally." I smiled, putting my phone away and pulling out my research notes. Tomorrow would bring new experiments, new challenges, new opportunities to build something meaningful. But for now, standing in the same city where my sister had once posed for superficial photos, I felt the full circle of our journey. Sometimes you have to let people find their own way, even if they have to get lost first, and sometimes getting lost is the only way to truly find yourself. I had an early meeting to prepare for, groundbreaking research to continue, and a family slowly learning the value of authentic achievement. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And real, I learned, was better than perfect any day.